Hello and welcome to What is Magic, a series of videos that I've created having a discussion with some of the most interesting and some of the most creative minds in magic currently about what magic is. We talk a little bit more philosophically about magic, what magic means to our audiences, what magic means to us, and how we can be the best magicians possible for our audiences. In this episode, I speak to Mortenn Christiansen, someone who you may or may not have heard of before, but Mortenn is an incredible magician. And I am so excited to bring you this episode because this episode kind of happened by surprise or accident. Mortenn is a FISM award winner. For those of you who don't know, FISM is basically the Olympics of magic, and Mortenn won gold. So you know that he's going to have some interesting thoughts. And I think out of all of these episodes, this probably was the one that I enjoyed the most because Mortenn was so transparent in his thoughts, and his thoughts were particularly interesting from the perspective that he comes from. So sit back, grab a drink, and enjoy this chat with Mortenn Christiansen.
Okay, now we are recording. Mortenn Christiansen, thank you for joining me today for today's episode on what is magic.
Yep, hello, I'm happy to be here.
And I'm really happy to have you here. This is the second time that we've done this intro because I forgot to hit the record button. But I think it's really important to say that the reason I wanted you on these episodes for this chat about magic is because I think that you and your style and your charisma embody the idea of what magic is. It's fun, it's interesting. So I'm glad that you're happy to be here. And we'll start with a very simple question. If you can answer it for me as honestly as possible, what is magic?
Yeah, that's a very simple question. I don't know, depending on what you mean about magic. Like, do you mean magic, or do you mean what we do with playing cards? Because I think that's two different things. Because I don't believe in real magic, but I believe in what I can make with a deck of cards, and being on stage is magic. But yeah.
Maybe we can touch on both of those. So we'll start with, because I think the whole reason everyone will be watching this is to find out about the magic that you create on stage. So before we go into that, what is the other kind of magic that you refer to? The magic that you kind of don't believe exists is what do you mean by that?
Just like real magic, that we're all faking it, that this is magic isn't real. Like, yeah, I could find your card. Oh, it was a break. Like, okay, magic. And because of that, a lot of my magic is not played off in a way where I'm like pretentious and like, oh, look, I actually did something really cool and taking credit for a skill I don't have or something. It's just, here's a trick. Hope you like it. If you don't, sure, okay.
Mhm.
We'll find something else.
Which I think I'm going to make a note of that. I think that that is really interesting. And I want to ask you a little bit more about your thoughts on that. But while I write this down, maybe you can explain to everyone about your thoughts on the magic that you create on stage, this magic that you're talking about, where if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. And then that's the end of that. You will move on to the next piece of magic. You will do the next piece of comedy that bridges into the magic, however the structure may be. Tell us a little bit about that. What is this magic that we create in terms of tricks, in terms of creating the illusion of magic for people? To you personally, what is that? What are you trying to do with your audience?
Yeah, I'm trying to take my audience seriously. That I don't want to waste their time, and I'm not taking them for granted that they're watching the show or whatever. So I always want to be very respectful in what I do and what I show, and in that way, that doing magic and pretending I have some sort of power or whatever is not taking them seriously for me. It's just silly, and I'm mainly on stage as a performer, as a comedian, as like for this to be fun and not for them to look at me and be like, oh, he's so special and he has powers and I want to have his children. Like, it's just, I'm here to have fun, and then you can go out and have some children with somebody else. That's my plan.
I love
So
that.
yeah, I can be the wingman for all of you. You can all have fun here at the show, and then go live your lives. I don't want to be part of your life. I'm just here on stage. So everything I make for stage is something that I think is good enough, and I'm very hard on myself. And when I make stuff, that I don't want to waste people's time. And I've watched so much magic and comedy and whatever that I know what I like and I know what will play on stage, and I will make stuff and I'll spend a lot of money and time making stuff. And if it's just not funny enough or it doesn't work the way I want it to, or I won't hesitate to just throw it away, because it's more important for me that the show is good and they like it than, oh, I made this and I want to show it. So it's that balance of still being an artist, let's say that oh, I've made something special I want to show, but then again respecting my audience to what do they want to see. Sometimes that's not the same, and that is why some performers are very niche, because they choose that what they want to do is what they like, and some performers are very meh, because they play to everybody. And I try to find the middle ground of, I don't necessarily want to be really famous and successful and everybody likes me, and but I also don't want to be niche that, oh, okay, 5 people like what I'm doing. So I'm trying to be in between that.
Okay, I think we will talk a little bit more about that creative process and what elements you look for in creating your magic in a little while. But I think that absolutely shows, as I mentioned to you in a message before we stepped on this chat some days ago, I think, or last week, I said to you about watching your show reel of your 45-minute show. I think this was in a comedy club in
Yeah,
Denmark, is that right?
yeah.
And I encourage all of you to go and watch that. So it is in Danish and it has really great English subtitles, but it's so fantastic. You get to see really how Mortenn works, and you get to see the serious side, the comedy side, the magic side, and I just really encourage you to get an idea. Even if you stop watching this video now, this chat with Mortenn, and you go and watch that, and then you return to us after, I think that will give you a really good idea of everything that Mortenn has said so far about magic really shows. But there's also the fact that you said about taking the audience seriously. There's a saying that I really love, and I say it in magic and I say it in business in general, and that's, we have to give people what they want before we can give them what we want. And I think a lot of magicians do give what they want to an audience before they give the audience what they want to see. And I think that shows in your work as well, which is what you said. You try to take them seriously. What have they come to see you do today? When they see Mortenn Christiansen on the bill of an advertisement, how does that make them feel? Are they coming to see funny? Are they coming to see serious? Are they coming to see a mixture of both? So I think that is certainly something that a lot of magicians could benefit from thinking a little bit more about in their performances. But I also would like to know, we discussed about how you don't believe in kind of real magic or miracles or that kind of thing, a magician being a real magician. But do you remember in your life, I don't know how old you are, but do you remember in your life your first experience of magic, the first time you had that feeling? And it doesn't have to be about a magic trick. It can be just the first time you ever felt like something was magic.
That's a good question. I don't know. That I remember seeing before I did magic the Tourist Sword newspaper where it's just you, like the Gene Anderson where you flash and it's restored. And I remember seeing that when I wasn't doing magic and thinking that as they were falling, it restored. Like I could see that side of magic. But that's also why Tourist Sword newspaper is a trick I really think is good if you do it right, because I have remembered seeing it not as a magician. But no, I don't really remember anything I thought was real magic. I'm way more like logical thinking. So every time I see something, I'm like, oh, okay, that's because of this and this and this. So no, I'm very impressed with, oh, that's clever, that happened because of this, or the puzzle of, oh, I don't really understand, and that. So no, but because that for me, I don't care about the magic in that way, that it has to be, oh, you don't know how I did it, because it could easily just be, here's a puzzle, it's fun, and that's it. Which boils down to the fact that I think a lot of magic is so fragile, because all the magicians have is the secret. That if we take the secret away, it's just a really boring person that bought a trick, and like this classic saying, he was the first guy at the magic shop. I worked in a magic shop for years, and I can sell a show to somebody. You can buy, here's 5 tricks, here's a show, and I have done that. Like, there's many people just doing tricks you can buy, and they're now the magician. But if I take the secrets away, they're still just the same boring person that they were. So I try to put in more in my performance. That is not just, here's a trick, you don't know how it works, I'm better than you. Because yeah, if they knew, you're not better than them. So for me, it's not about that. It's the performance and the, look how interesting this is, which is also why I can never take credit for anything I haven't done. I only perform my own stuff. I hate taking credit for something I didn't do, because who, like, I could just let somebody else do it. Why should I do it? And if there's not, like, the work I put in doesn't match what they get out of it or what they think I did. So even something really simple as, like, with cards, like doing a double lift and giving them, look, you get this one, and then magic, and they think you're the greatest magician in the world. Yeah, but the secret is I could lift 2 pieces of paper at the same time. And even that I feel uncomfortable with, that they're giving me so much credit for something that's really, really simple. So yeah, something like that.
That's really interesting, because I think, from my experience anyway, most magicians, or magicians in general, are the opposite of that. They will take credit for everything, no matter how small the thing is, and whether they are entertaining at a wedding or a corporate event or in a show. It's more about, and you see it as well, don't you? You see it with some magicians. After they do the trick, they're grinning and they're laughing and they're so happy with themselves, when 99% of the time they have not done anything to add to the trick themselves. There's no story about them. It's just they've bought, like you say, they've gone out, they've bought a trick,
Yeah,
they've read the
but it's
instructions.
also because that is one of the only hobbies, things you can perform with. You can just buy. You can buy the skill, basically, and I think that for some people it's good that they are getting something that can help them be social, or something that makes them a little bit more special. But I think it can also be too much, because the way the magic world has changed, and again, I've worked in a magic shop for over 10 years. I know I've seen so many tricks come out, and the way it's produced, and it's all about, here's the reactions, and you're going to be the coolest person. Yeah, but okay, but what if you're not the coolest person? And it can so easily be for, and I know a lot of magicians that we're maybe a little weird, that it's nice to buy social skills, and now I can be a person. But where does that stop, and where do you begin? And so it is just hard, because I think a lot of people that get into magic is not, they do not begin magic to become performers. They begin for some maybe selfish reason of wanting to be cool and wanting to meet girls, or whatever it is. um, and suddenly you just end up performing, where if you know a few tricks, somebody will ask you, oh, I have this birthday party, can you come? And that'll just happen. And it's a little bit weird getting into a hobby, and then suddenly people think it's your job, like, oh, can you do this and then this? Where if I collected stamps, I wouldn't expect the first person to ask me, oh, can you do a little talk about stamps, like a lecture and a show? no, I just do this for fun by myself. Which is how I started magic. I did not start magic to become a performer. I like the puzzle of it. I like I can create this illusion of something that cannot happen by doing this and this and this. Never expected to be a magical performer. That was not what I wanted. But that is what you get if you begin in magic without knowing why you start, I think.
So, have you always had this logical mindset when thinking about these things? Did you study, I don't know, engineering or architecture or anything like that?
No. I don't have an education in any way. The school was very difficult for me,
Mhm.
I have autism, so I've also gone to schools where that was the main focus of learning to live with who I am.
Mhm.
Um, and But I'm very like I have a high IQ that they test that when you get into that school, and I'm a very logical person.
Mhm.
I'm I am also like high functioning, and I just have this autism in my head. But so no, I've just always been very logical, and but without going to school. But a lot of all my skills I've learned through magic, because this is what I'm interested in, and then I like keep learning. Where learning for the wrong reasons, which was in school, didn't interest me. Like learning because somebody told me you have to do this. Okay, I don't want to. But if it's
Yeah.
because I want to learn a new trick, okay, sure. I will learn how to use tools and whatever, and like language. Like I have never in school had English lessons. I just learned English because of magic,
Wow.
and uh, and the same thing with like my FISM act I'm performing here in Portugal, and I've done all over the world. I've learned in different languages so I could perform it because I need that. I don't speak Spanish, but I know my full act in Spanish because
This is
I needed
amazing.
to learn that because of magic. Um, so uh, I really magic has done a lot of good for me, and I think a lot of people could get a lot out of it if they just think about why.
Mhm.
Instead of just being, "Oh, I'm so cool," really trying not to like put down magicians because I have worked in a magic shop. I know so many people, and I know why they get there. And magicians we are all different. Like I call myself a magician, but if I sold 5 tricks to a person tomorrow, he could call himself a magician because he knows the tricks. So the title magician is so broad, and I think what I'm doing is totally different to that person, but we
Mhm.
just use the same title. And sometimes you need to figure out what when you say magician, when I say magician, when somebody else says it, what does that mean for them? Because
Mhm.
the way I make magician is not the same as maybe you. And even though, I'm the FISM world champion, who cares? I know that there's things I'm good at and things somebody else is good at. I'm not the best person to hire to do strolling or whatever, like let's say real shows, like corporate shows. Like I'm not the best.
Mhm.
I'm good in a show. Come to a comedy club, come to a show, then I fit in because it's in the setting of here's the show, here's the stage, and if you just put me in the corporate setting or in a house party, I'm not as good, and I know that, and I
Interesting.
feel fine with that. That I've multiple times had people wanting to book me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not the best, even though I have the title saying I'm the best,
Mhm.
but that title is niche and specific to what I'm doing. And I would much rather send a friend and be like, "Hey, I know he's gonna do a great job because I'm not the best in that setting." So yeah, we're different, and I'm good with that. So there's still space for people just to buy 5 tricks. Sometimes it's just annoying if they think they're more than they really are because but we're different. Like you bought 5 tricks and you're a nice person, but I'm an let's say artist again. Like I care about what I'm doing in a different way that another person would.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I'm not trying to put anyone down, and we're all different, and there's space enough for
No,
everybody.
this is exactly why I started this series of videos, and this is again another reason why I thought that you would be so interesting to speak to, because I don't think highly of the magic world, but also some of the people I've met through magic are some of the most amazing people. And I don't mean, when I say that, I don't mean that they are the most amazing magician and they are the most talented magician I've ever met, but they are the most amazing people ever. And knowing them through magic, if there wasn't magic, on another one of these chats with a guy called John Mason, he talks about magic is a golden thread that you can go anywhere in the world and you can instantly connect with someone if you both know magic. It's one of those few things in the world that is that unique and people bond over. And because of that, it means that there are so many people from different walks of life. There are odd people, there are really cool people who know a magic trick or two, and there is everyone in between. And we have celebrities doing it, and then we have, very poor people doing it on the streets of India and Thailand and many other countries as well. And I think that this is go I hope anyway, this will be really interesting for people to listen to, because this is beyond the magic tricks. What we're talking about is becoming the magic. You become the magic, and the tricks are just things that you do. Because I always say when I'm entertaining at events that if someone wants to know the trick, if they say, "Oh, how did you do that?" I need to know. I would say, "Well, I can," and they always say, "Oh, but you can't tell me, can you? It's the magician's code." And I say, well, no, I can tell you if I want. If
Yeah.
you want to know, if you are going to get more enjoyment out of knowing the secret, I'll tell you. But I will warn you that knowing the secret isn't very fun. Some people, as you say, will be that way inclined, and they 1% of people will really enjoy knowing the secret, but the rest of the people, I think it's developing this awareness, and I really like it because most of the time that person will say, "Oh, actually, I don't want to know."
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
the way you've explained it to me, I actually want to live in that moment of magic now. I don't I thought I wanted to know, but now I don't. And I think that that's where us as people and us as humans who are using the tricks to communicate with people come in, and that development needs to happen. Um, but that all came off of me asking you about your first, if you could remember your first memory of magic. But what do you think about magic, how it is now? Because as you said, you have a lot of experience, 10 years of experience working in a magic shop. You also, as we've said, are a FISM winner. You're performing in Portugal, so you have a wealth of experience. So what do you think about how magic is performed these days? Do you like where it is? Because if we go back 50 years, magic was very different, and it was
Yeah.
top hats and
Yeah.
tails and producing doves and very and card manipulation. So what are your thoughts? Do you like magic where it is now, how it's evolved, or do you feel
Yeah.
differently?
No, I like some of it. Um, but again, magic is so broad. Like right now, I'm doing my FISM winning act in a big show and with other people that would have come from, let's say, that magic competition world where FISM is the world championships of magic. So you show up with your best stuff, your newest stuff. They'll fool magicians, which is a world I like to be in because it's pushing me to do better and also showing stuff I've made and also impressing like people. I hate, and I'm a bad spectator if at conventions if people want to show me something that because if you don't have anything new to it, if you're showing me a trick you bought or just a handling of some, I'm bored. Like show me something you made and tell me here's a detail on this and or be funny while you like not you don't have necessarily have to be funny, but be interesting while you're doing it. So I like that side of the pushing yourself with stuff like FISM. And yeah, if you look 50 years back, I think a lot of the things that won FISM, not even 50 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, like
Mhm.
wouldn't win now, which is a good thing because we keep pushing the art forward. That right now in the show, Hector Mancha is in the show, FISM Grand Prix
Mhm.
winner in 2015. And the manipulation he won with was new and different at the time and not just the classic, oh, I can back palm 50 cards and stuff because he pushed it forward. And since then, new things have happened. And I really like that part of magic that we push each other forward. But then the magic product side is, for me, it's gotten worse. But it's just because now it's a market that's very big, and uh, and it's all about selling stuff and not about the art. Let's say that again, because yeah, I've spoken to a lot of the magic production companies, and I put out very few things. But like Murphy's Magic, they just told me that they want to sell toys. They want to sell. You buy the packaging, you open up, and you're like, oh my god, and then you do you play a magician, which again, it's fine because people buy it. That's what they want to do. But that's not what I want to do. Like, and so that part of it, I'm not that like, happy with. That it's all about buy my new toy and not here's some thoughts on magic. And again, the world of magic has become bigger. That there's again room for people that just wants to buy the toy. Fine. And I just know that there's a bunch of stuff I don't need. I don't need to look at. So yeah, I'm taking the good with the bad. I'm I don't like necessarily social media magic, but also I don't care. I'm not doing it. I'm not. First of all, I'm not a social media person anyway. I think putting myself out there in that way doesn't fit my personality. It doesn't fit what I want to do. I want to be performing live to get a reaction that yeah I can use for something instead of just yeah online. So and again that's a big market putting out tricks that'll work to the camera and it's a flap and it's black art and it's okay, but then there's also just hundreds of magicians having a magic account on Instagram and they do the same. Oh, what like millions of magicians have done the look, here's a playing card, bam, it's a watch. Okay, but why?
Yeah.
Okay, like sure, it's a great trick. It looks visual, but why? And specifically that trick, like it looks really good. Method is cool, and I had a friend that wanted to do that trick, and he then asked if I could help customize it. So I made another gaffed card that wasn't a playing card; it was just a piece of paper, and did something else, same effect, same gimmick, but just not. Here's a playing card for no reason, and so stuff like that is just like why would you do that? But I don't know. I'm not that person that needs the new Instagram magic. But whenever I put stuff up on Instagram, which is rarely like tricks wise, it's stuff I want to mainly like show to magicians really, and it's also stuff that is either something that they can't copy because they don't know how it works, or can't copy because it's too difficult. Um, because that's not my um, field is Instagram magic. So I'm trying not to hate on it too much because I'm not in that space. And magic is like there's also these small groups of people that like you could I don't know you that well, Scott, but you could think FISM is all about a bunch of and like oh the best in the world, who cares, like because you make money doing corporate stuff or whatever. And I fully understand that if that is some people have that feeling about magic, the FISM world class magic, and the same way I feel about Instagram magic. Maybe I'm just not getting it. That oh I'm actually doing this and this. Yeah, okay, sure, okay, but that doesn't mean I have to say, "Oh, this is bad for their magic," and I just don't get it, and I'm not going to do it.
I think that this is a really nice way of thinking about things rather than getting angry because you say about you don't know how I feel about FISM. For me, FISM is about the exploration of ideas of magic. It's about people who can take principles and ideas and create something new. And then I also well, despise is maybe a strong word, but I don't like social media in general with magic or for any other reason. I think that people shouldn't have been given social media. I think that people are confused about social media. I have so many friends who they are not famous, they are not performers, they are just regular people going about their lives, posting it on Instagram or Facebook or something. I don't care. You know, you went for a walk. Good for you. And I think the confusion has come because the rise of social media has been for people to get an insight into celebrity lives. and into businesses. You know, if I see a new magic product, like the whole reason I found out about you was because of Mortenn's jumbo card trick. And then I looked you up, and I thought I was so excited because it was a really interesting idea, and I actually performed that for a big room of about 100 people on, what are we on now? Thursday, I think. I performed that on Tuesday, and they loved it.
Great.
So I think that social media is this weird kind of thing where people think they're celebrities, and because of that, I looked at the product and I looked you up, and it was great to be able to connect with you. But again, I don't care about seeing you eat cupcakes or whatever while you're at the Louis the Matos show. I care about what you create, and I care about your thoughts, and I think that people
I
who
just
care
want to
about
say
things.
we haven't had cupcakes. Louis could offer us cupcakes more often, but he hasn't. No, I agree that for me, social media and Instagram,
Mm,
especially because that's the only thing I really use, is
mm,
is for me just to follow my friends. I follow
mm,
so few famous people because I don't care about their lives. But I care with my magician friend I don't see that often who lives in another country. Like, oh, he posted something cool. Like, oh, good for you. And that gives me a chance to connect with him and then
yeah.
write a message. Oh, it's so good. Happy for you. Whatever. Like I the other part doesn't interest me. And when people
Mm,
post stuff for them make something that they think is gonna go viral or like, look at me, I'm like, I don't care.
mhm.
That's and again, it's just because I don't care and don't understand it, that doesn't mean it's not good or bad. I don't know, and
So this
people
is
should just
this
do
is the
what they
thing
want.
that I think is important. Your the way you think about this. You're not angry about it. You're not. It doesn't mean anything. It's not your thing, and you allow people to do that because I've had conversations with companies as well who they don't want to hire me for their big corporate show because I don't have a big enough social media following.
Yeah,
So they'll go for, in my opinion, someone who's not as good of a magician, but gives them much more exposure for their brand because
yeah.
that person has 100,000 followers.
But that's
Uh,
also like the one of the things in magic that it becomes a business, it becomes a
yeah,
brand, and that's not why I'm here. But I fully understand when I see my friends now that the Christmas season is here and they're doing a lot of corporate Christmas parties and stuff. I'm like, oh man, they're so good at it, and they know what they're doing. It's a business for them. They're doing 4 shows a night, and I'm like, okay, amazing. I wouldn't do that. I'm so comfortable. No, even if I know I have a bunch of friends that's gonna make a bunch of money and like they're really successful, and I literally do not care. Like, good for them if that's what they want to do, but I don't care that I could spend the same amount of time and then earn as much money. And but I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for the fame. But I'm like, good for them if they want to do that. Like
this
for
is a
me,
brilliant
I don't.
way to be. This is a
Yeah,
great mindset for people to have
yeah,
because, of course, we in the magic world we have a lot of competition as well, and sometimes people, rather than working together, they fight each other, and I think
yeah,
that that's perhaps not the best thing to do either. If you don't agree with something that someone's doing, like you said, just let them do it. Just
yeah. But again,
continue concentrating on your thing.
coming from me, it's also that I'm not in competition with anybody.
Mm,
I'm not. I don't want those corporate gigs. So I'm just happy my friends want them and they are making money. Because mainly where I perform, I'm unique and I'm different, and I will get the gig because I'm me. I will never take a gig because we need a magician and I'm the magician. Only be hired because they want Mortenn Christiansen.
mm,
Otherwise, I won't do it because then
yes.
you could just get somebody else, and you could get somebody cheaper. You could get somebody like, don't pay for me. I who cares? And then yeah, you could say he's the FISM world's greatest magician. Yeah, but who cares? Like I just did a bunch of shows where that was part of the introduction, and every night we were like, why is he saying FISM world champion? Nobody knows what FISM is. I won FISM. I barely know what FISM stands for. It's French and it's Federation something, a magic. There's an M, it's magic. But who cares? Like, and also the world's best magician. What does that mean? When say
Mhm.
that to a normal person, he's the best magician. Okay, so he scored the most points, so he came first, and like what? So people like if they want a magician, they can book a magician, and they shouldn't book me. And
I had this conversation when I was chatting with Troy as well, and this conversation happened off camera after we finished, and I was saying to him, if you think about Was the Olympics this year or was the Olympics last year?
I have no idea.
Well, let's just say it was this year. I think it was this year. But I said to him, tell me something about the Olympics that just happened. You know, one of the greatest sporting events in the world ever. And I said to him, I bet I can name 2 of the 5 things that you remember. One of them was the crazy Australian breakdancer.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other one, it was the archer person. Sorry, not the archer,
The gunman.
the gun, yeah, the Turkish
Yeah,
gun
yeah, yeah.
shooter. But that's what people remember. People don't
Yeah.
remember who won gold, who won the most golds, who.
No.
So I agree with you, and I think that this is a much more healthy way to think about magic. But let's talk about, because you said that you like a lot about magic because it's advanced so much, and there are a lot of people pushing magic forward. And then the aspects that you don't like quite so much, but you don't hate it. You just allow people to get on with it, like social media magic. But how do you feel about magic moving into the future? Do you think that there's going to be more of this social media magic, or do you think that people are going to, especially after what happened with COVID, do you think that people will want real life experiences and people will want more magic in person? You know, what's the health of magic like in the
Yeah.
future for you?
I don't know, because I'm magic on TV and social media doesn't interest me at all, because
Mm,
it just becomes, here's a trick from a faceless magician. Who cares about that magician? Here's a trick, and you're like, oh, that's cool, and that's it. So I don't get anything out of watching it on video, but seeing a good show, I enjoy. But it's also been a while since I saw a really good show, like a one man show. Because if you go to conventions, there's always pretty good shows because you get to see 5 minutes or 10 minutes of somebody really good.
mhm.
But somebody, I don't know. I would like to see more live magic, but the thing I've seen in the magic shop is that there's a lot of people that start magic because of social media, like way more that start because of that, in compared to people that start because they want to perform or anything like that.
Mm.
And there's not that in Denmark, at least. There's not that many younger magicians that wants to be on stage and do something creatively in front of people. And again, I get it. Like, um, public speaking is one of the things that a lot of people are scared of, and I totally get that. I have stage fright every time I perform, and that's also why I don't do gigs where I'm just the magician, or it's something that's not suitable for me, because I know I'll be all red in my face and my heart will be pounding because this is not the setting I'm good in. So I get why you wouldn't want to be a performer, and it's easier to hide behind a screen on social media. But
Mhm.
I don't know where it's going in the future. I know that magic with electronics does not interest me in any way because of that like electronics are so much like the part of our everyday life, and
Mhm.
having a magic trick rely on that doesn't seem that interesting, because I think the method is much easier to figure out. Like, oh, maybe he just has a printer. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
But then do a method that's not that, and then proof you don't have a printer is stronger, in my opinion. Um, and like, I don't get. This is just my opinion, and again, nobody should listen to this, because if you're a good corporate musician and you like it, just do that. But I don't get why people still uses those dies where you can roll them and you can say, oh, it's
Mm.
a 6 and a 4. Oh, okay, but that, yeah, that you can buy that product like as a non magician. Like, oh, okay, so stuff like that, and even those impression pads, and like, oh, you need to have a really strong presentation, not to just make me think, oh, will this show up in your suitcase? So in that way, I know that I will always go to the more mechanical, simple method, and I think and I hope a lot of magic will go that way again after
Mm.
we're done. Like, oh, magic with electronics is so cool, and then I hope they'll, because I think it's a stronger method wise to then not use it, because 20 years ago when electronics started to come, really magical, because who knew you could do whatever with it. But I hope it's gonna go the other way again. But I don't know.
I completely agree with you. I like a lot of effects with technology, but I simply could never perform them because once you introduce a phone or once you introduce an iPad, I know even if I wasn't a magician, I think I know that that piece of technology can do many things that can help you. And like you've said, at the end of the day, people kind of know that the magician is not really magic. So they know that the props that they're using are doing something. And I think ultimately, if people think the phone did the magic trick, that magician is a nobody again. And they've not added anything to it. And suddenly someone's saying, that's a cool puzzle, that's a cool trick, that's not magic. And then they're no longer amazed like they would
and they
be
will give
with
the
the prop on
credit
it.
to the phone, and but
Mm,
same thing if they think you're using a trick deck, and
mhm.
they probably don't know what they even think, like, when they say that. They say, oh, it's a trick deck. They don't know what
Uh-huh.
they mean. But if they think it's a trick deck, they will give the deck the credit. So that's where the performance and the art comes into it, to prove it's not, or to then, if it
Mm,
is, prove it's not because you're then one step ahead or whatever. And yeah, if it's not you, why take credit? And I feel so silly even watching magicians that's claiming something that they cannot do, and like, oh,
yeah.
I did this. Okay, why? Like, why would you claim something? Like, even in like advertising, a lot of people will put in all those keywords that sell, like, oh,
Mhm.
he can manipulate your mind if it's mind reading, or he mixes comedy and magic. Yeah, but if you're not funny, why would you say, oh, it's comedy? Yeah,
Mhm.
just because you have the no gag and, like, oh, the clean one, like,
Yeah.
okay, then it's comedy. And I guess it is, because if people are laughing, but are they laughing at you, or we're like, you're like, yeah, but
Mhm.
they're so happy when I perform. Yeah, compared to what? Should they be sad? I don't know. Like, why would you use a word that doesn't, like? Why would you claim something you can't? That's,
Yeah.
again, I don't like, yeah, mentalism for
Well,
that reason.
my next question from that, from how do you see magic going in the future, was what would you like to see? What's the one thing that you would like to see change in magic going forward after today? If there was one thing that you could change with magic, what would that be? Would
Oh,
it be with
difficult. There's a
removing
lot of things I would
technology?
like to change. Uh, Again, it's difficult because it's there's so many different versions of magic that
Mm,
I don't have to agree with all of them. I would like to see more honesty in magic in a way, but even though when I perform, it's kind of in character, that I'm like
mm,
a little more goofy and whatever, but still very honest. I'm not lying in any way. I can get away with everything I need to without lying. Because I just won't say, look, I have here one card, you hold on to that one. Like, I just don't say stuff like that. Even that, I feel awkward. Like, now I know
mm.
I acted a little bit, but even that's a lie. Here, I have one card. No, but I don't know, because it's, yeah. I would like to see more performers that performed because they thought about why they are performing. uh, for years, I did not perform magic on stage. I liked magic as a hobby. I did it for myself. I entered competitions, but I didn't do it on stage because I was so afraid of, oh, what if they see this? Then I'm nothing.
Mm,
And then realizing, oh, I'm not nothing. I know what I'm doing, but it's so fragile that, oh, here's a trick, and so for years I performed on stage just doing comedy and sword swallowing and juggling, because I liked, and I still do, like, sideshow stunts, and, like, what I would say
mhm.
is real magic tricks, that we can buy a fake sword that rolls up, but I can swallow a sword for real, and I can let people touch this sword, and I can show them that real trick of being a sword swallower, because I've practiced, and because I don't have any friends and I'm weird. But so for years that was what I did, because I was afraid of them knowing the secret. So I
Mm,
did real stuff, juggling and comedy and sword swallowing, and so I know it's a journey to get on stage with something that is honest, something that is a trick, but not being pretentious about it.
yeah.
So for me, the secret is never on stage the most important thing. I will always work way harder than you think I would on making a
Mm,
method work and be convincing and good and all the subtleties around it. But I don't think my show would be ruined if you know how I did everything. where that would be the case if you just bought 5 tricks at the magic shop and you did a show and I would whisper to my friends every time, like, oh, it's in his pocket, or
Yeah.
double lift, like, then your show would be ruined. Where if somebody was sitting there and exposing my secrets, I don't think my show would be ruined, because I put more into it than just the tricks. And
This is a great
again,
thing.
if you learn the methods in my shows, I think you'd still be impressed. Oh, really? He did that? I didn't see it. Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, I don't know what I would change. I would change a lot in the magic industry of putting out stuff, but
Yeah.
I just watched an old video, like maybe it's 10 years old, a DVD of a performer. I'm not gonna mention his name, but he was showing his act. He was showing his act. Here's his full act, and it was meant more as a to be inspired and learn from. Look, here's the thoughts I put into this. You're like it was a full like 10-minute act, and he was not explaining it for you to be like, oh, I'm just gonna take that. It was put out in the way which I like when magic is put out in that way, that it's learn from what I've done. Like if Mike Caveney is one of my favorite magicians, and his book Wonders, it's a great book because he shows everything he's ever worked on. And even though he's kind of saying you can do it, I will never do it. I'm just interested in hearing, oh, what did he think about this and this and this? So I'm watching this video of this performer going through his act. And I love this performer. I love the act. I'm there to be inspired and be like, oh, really? You worked that hard on this one thing? Oh, that's so clever. And but the way he taught it, the way he explained the tricks was always, then you do this, then you do this. And it was weird he kept saying, then oh, I'm gonna do it, but also I'm not gonna do it because it's your act. And I think a lot of magic is taught in that way, that it's, oh, then you do this, then you position your finger here, then you do this, then you ask them this. No, because magic, and especially performing magic, is such a personal thing that that I should do it as how I would. So when I teach people stuff, when I put out a few things, it's always, here's what I'm doing. This has worked for me for how many years. Uh, this is not how you should do it. Like, even so, the jumbo card trick that Shane just put out, that you had a look at. I put this jumbo prediction card sticking out of my hat, so it's covering my face, and that is how I'm doing it. But I'm not gonna teach it to you like, this is how you do it. You put it here, and that is how you do it. Because I'm not gonna limit you. And I think that has been for years the wrong way we've learned each other magic, because it, like, also at a convention you could see people like show a move and then somebody will, oh no, this is how you do it. But what if that person can't do it that way? What if it doesn't work for that person? What if, like, no, do whatever you want. So also crediting moves to somebody is also weird. Like, oh, this is a move by this person. Oh, but I have fingers and hands, and oh, okay, but what if I did? Like, there's multiple moves I've invented myself because I'm not an idiot. Like, oh, what if I do this? And then I realize somebody's already put his name on it, and I don't care. Oh, good for you. Who cares? So I think that the way we learn and teach magic is sometimes wrong, because it will limit the person that's learning it to only think, oh, it has to be this way, and not let them think for themselves, which is again not helping, not being creative. If you get into it just because you can buy a trick, and then that trick teaches you not to think any further, you're just not gonna get there. Very happy that I got into it in a way where, like, I was into performing comedy and stuff when I was a kid, and I got into magic not to perform it. It was just a hobby, so I just got it like a sponge. I just picked up everything I could and learned, and because I wasn't going to use it, I knew I wasn't going to use it, because I only wanted to show stuff I'd made myself. But yeah, it's an industry. People make money, and that's fine. Like, who cares? I didn't go to Vanishing and be like, oh, here's a card trick, you want to put it out? I showed it at the convention, the session convention in London, and they were like, hey, you want to put it out? Can we sell it? Because it's a practical trick. It's a good, let's say, magic product, and I'm like, sure, why not? I like to share, and I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for anything. I'm just like, sure, okay, great.
Hopefully, everyone who ends up watching this will, if they take nothing else from this episode,
I hope that they take this. The idea of creating something that is a piece of you. Share something with someone that, and I mentioned this in one of the other chats in the series, that I think it was Paul Daniels who once told me that a magician can show a person a magic trick, and it will be just that. It will be a magic trick. It will be a puzzle, as you've said. It will be a fun thing. They will say that was cool. Another magician can show that same person the same trick, but that person will feel like it's a miracle. And the only difference is because the other magician has put in the thought of, how do I want people to feel when I'm doing this trick? What am I communicating to them? How are we going to take this journey of this magic trick together? So I hope that, if nothing else, people get this from you, that not only can help magic as a whole, but it can help their magic so much more. And in doing so, in improving their magic, people will want to see them perform more, and maybe they'll end up being a FISM winner because of watching this and being inspired. But I have two more questions. One of the questions is about the creative process, which we touched on earlier. So I really want to ask about a little bit about your creative process, and I'm also going to tell you an idea that I've been working on, and I want you to just have a little think about it and say, because I think that talking about that briefly will help other people think about developing magic tricks. So the second to last question I have is, I think we already have probably answered this, but if you can put it in a short sentence or paragraph, how do you want people to feel when they watch Mortenn Christiansen after they've left your show? What do you want them to be saying as they're walking out?
Yeah, I want them to have had fun. I think the classic thing of, I want them to think, oh, I would like to have a beer with that person, even though I don't drink, so I would say no. But but that sort of thing, that they want to hang out with me, and also that I'm approachable. I like shows where, that after the show, if they meet me as I'm leaving or they leaving, or if we're taking photos afterwards, that they want to approach me, even if it's just to say thank you, it was a great show, or if they are like, want to ask questions about some of it, or like, how do you learn that? Oh, that's so cool. Like, I want to be approachable. I want them to have had fun, and I don't necessarily want them just to be like, oh, he's the greatest magician, because then they, for me, it feels like they just saw that aspect of it, like, oh, he's a great magician. Yeah, but I feel like I'm a great person and a great performer and a bunch of things. So yeah, I just want them to feel like, oh, he was fun. I had fun. It wasn't a waste of time.
Like they were watching a friend on stage.
Yeah.
To feel like they were in good company.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
And I really try, because I know I am so critical seeing magic, and I will, and I know it's hard, and I also want to say nice things, but I'm also like, if you want my honest opinion, I'll give it to you. But also, I'm a strong believer in not giving feedback if the person doesn't want feedback, because you can say something you shouldn't, and maybe the person is not ready to receive it. But I have very strong opinions when I go to see a show, if that's a magic show or a comedy show or a theater show in any way. So I'm just trying to make something where I wouldn't, like, if I saw my own show afterwards, I wouldn't be like, yeah, production value was bad and this and this and this. I know there's many mistakes in my show, because I'm not the greatest, like, all around I music in my show is something I've never had, because I'm horrible at working with anything that has batteries and electronics, and like, so it could always be better. And I'm even like my FISM act, which is this, the very polished piece of work that is 8 minutes, and I won this title of being, oh, like, he's good. That is still something I'm tweaking and changing, because I get to do it all the time. So yeah, I just want people to leave my show thinking that was fun, and not criticize me that much. But I will take feedback. Oh, I love taking feedback. I will listen to people, even people I don't know, and I don't know how much they've seen before, but even so, in Denmark, it's a big thing that because Rune Clan is such a famous magician in the magic world, we know him, but in Denmark, he's very famous. He has big tours and TV shows, so people will often compare me and every other magician to Rune Clan. And he's my very good friend, and I love him, and I work on his stuff. So it's very fun when people say, "Oh, compare me to him." I'm like, "Yeah, but I did make some of this." But yeah, but I will listen to them, even if that's the only reference they have. I'm like, "Oh, okay." With that only reference, you think I'm too close to being Green Clan, or you think whatever and whatever. I'll listen to them. That doesn't mean I'll take it in and be like, "Oh, this random person said this," but I'll listen, and I will also, because I hope and feel like I am approachable after shows, I will ask people if they caught something they shouldn't. That is the question I ask the most. I ask, did you catch something you shouldn't have seen? Because I think it's a very friendly question that also implies that I know that there's stuff you shouldn't have seen. And were you clever enough to catch me? And could you, and they're them sharing it with me, which is very nice, because it has given me a lot of feedback of, oh, okay, they think this, even if it's not the method, they think it. So I have to take that out, or so yeah, approachable, and then ask questions.
This leads really nicely into the final question, which is a little bit about your creative process, because for anyone who did stop watching this episode earlier and went to watch Mortenn's show that's online, there's two parts. I've only made it halfway through at the moment, but there's two parts that I think are just incredible. One part is when you pull your shirt like this and you spit into this part is you know that there's a popular meme on the internet, right, where it's don't let people know your next move. Do you know about this? So I feel like your show is the epitome of that. Like, everything that happens is just a consecutive thing of you thinking, how have we gone from that to that? How has that happened? And everything, and there's moments like this, like that moment where you spit into your shirt gives me so much magic, because it's so weird in the way of its thinking. You would never expect that, but also it makes sense. I won't spoil it for anyone if they watch it, but the reason for you doing that makes sense because of what you performed prior to it. But yes, so I'm going to, we'll talk, I think you've talked a little bit about the creative process in the questions that I've asked. So I think I have something around here. So I have this idea that I have all my magic things over here that I'm working on. So I saw these, right? I saw these online, and it was just a stupid little video, and it's a little 3D printed knife.
Okay.
So in my mind, as soon as I saw this video, and it was like a cute video, and it was a girl, I think in Japan, on the back of a motorbike, and she was giggling about stabbing her boyfriend in the back on the motorcycle, and then she did this and made the knife go back in, and she made it look very cool. But it's a fidget toy. And in my mind, I thought, there's something in that. There's a magic. So far, this is what I've got. I think it will be a card trick. And I have 3 of these. One of them is pink, and then this one, and then there's a blue and white one. In terms of society, the pink one would be girly or feminine. So I'm going to take one of these, and I'll have someone up on stage. They'll choose a card or something in some way, and they'll be holding their card. And then I'll invite someone else up on stage, and I'll say about watching Gladiator, the movie. And this has got me in the mood to be masculine. And I'm not a big guy. I'm quite slim. I'm not that tall. So I'm not a very threatening person to look at. So I'm going to say about fighting, and we're going to duel to the death. And I'm going to whip out my knife, or I'll call it a sword or something like that. And then I'm going to say, and you get one too. Now I would hope that I would get a man up on stage, and I would give them the pink one, and then everyone would be presumably giggling or letting out a little laugh, and I'll say, sorry, I didn't mean to assume you are feminine, imposing that I'm going to win the fight. And then I'll take the pink one back from him, and then I'll offer him the choice of 2, so he can choose the girly one again if he wants and embrace his femininity, or he can choose the more manly one. So we'll both be there, and I'll be having a stance like this, and I'll say to him, whoever wins, whoever dies, or loses the fight, they die. And then the person who is alive at the end of the fight, they're the one who has to reveal the playing card of the person who has chosen it. And then as we're about to fight, I say, okay, wait, I'm not quite ready. And I take my top off, whether it's a suit jacket or whether it's a jumper, I'll take it off and I'll have like a white vest. And I'll take a bottle of baby oil and I'll put it all over myself, covered, dripping in baby oil on stage, which obviously means that they're not going to want to touch me because they will be coming to the show in their nice clothes. So I'll be there with my knife dripping in baby oil, and they're going to be nervous because they don't know what to do at this point. And then as soon as the person who chose the card says fight, then I'm just going to like stab myself and die on stage. And then that person is like, oh, I didn't expect that. So there's this weird, awkward moment where they now don't know what to do because their job is to reveal the playing card. And then the idea is something like as they're looking around and everyone's laughing, the card will pop up and it'll be like a sword. It will be like a sword stab, and it will just be such a stupid routine. And the goal is not necessarily to be the most amazing magic trick, but in my mind, everyone is laughing all the way through. And whether I get the right card in the end, in my mind, I don't think it will matter because people would have had so much fun during the process of the magic trick. So this is my thoughts on a routine, on a magic trick that I'm developing and thinking about. So I think the final thing that I'm going to ask you is, how would you approach that? That of course might not be the kind of magic trick that you would perform, but how would you approach thinking about that? And you don't. I know that this is a lot to ask in like this off of the bat, but would you put emphasis somewhere? Would you think about the outcome? How can I make the revelation of the playing card magical? Or would you think, how could I make them feel special on stage? What would your creative process be?
Yeah.
With something like that? Or if you were consulting for me or anything like that.
Yeah, but there's always a lot of questions in like, what are you going for? And like, especially if I was consulting that, I would have to know your style a little bit more. But in this case, like, I get why some of the choices in that, oh, you found this cool prop. I haven't seen the thing you're talking about, but oh, okay, interesting. And I think that is always and a good way to start of having something you find interesting, and maybe it's an interesting prop, like, oh, I like this prop, I like standing with this prop. But in this case, I would probably think, what is it that I'm showing? Because all you described was very like entertaining in the setting you described, that here's what you think is going to happen, and this could be fun because of this and this and this. But that is for me all like the byplay. That's what you do after you know where you're going. So I would always start with, what is it that I'm doing? What is it that I want to show? If it's a card trick where, and I get what you mean. I have tricks like that myself where it doesn't really matter that I find the card or there's an ending because we had fun. But I only think you can do that if you have an ending. Yes. This will work, and then if you don't find it or it's a different card, that's fine. I did do a trick. I'm also doing it here in Portugal. I did it in Vienna 2 weeks ago, and it has never failed. I've never failed this trick. I've done it for 10 years and never failed. And this time it went wrong. I was holding one card like very impressively. This should be the card, and it wasn't. And it was close. It was the 9 of hearts, and I had the 9 of diamonds. And so I'm like, bam, and I'm like, but it's close. And that was because I was surprised myself that it was not. But it's close, and it did not matter in that situation because we had a lot of fun throughout the trick. That it did not matter. But if I didn't have the security of having a trick, because until the point I was revealing it, I thought I had a trick. So I was also like having fun and going through it like with the stability and the comfort of knowing I have a trick. And then when I didn't have a trick, I'm like, okay, we had fun. So I get where you're going with it, and so yeah, I would have like, what's the thing I'm ending with? Usually when I make something, I will make, maybe depending on the setting, if it's a close-up trick or if it's a stage trick or if it's for a comedy club or if it's for a theater, I will make, let's say, 60 or 70% of what I think it is. Like what I think the structure, the method, the thing I'm showing. I'll make more than half of what I think the end result will be, and then I will perform it to see where that takes me, because maybe it takes me in a different direction than what I thought it was going, or I will figure out, oh, I don't have enough, I need to make more, or I have way too much, I'm much closer to the goal of making this trick 100% finished, even though nothing is ever finished. Where, yeah, what you describe is like, oh, okay, it doesn't sound, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, you don't have to listen to opinions, I just said that before, I don't think you have 60-70% of what this could be, but you have this start and you know where you're going, and I was thinking, oh, okay, are you gonna pour baby oil on yourself? That seems like a lot of work. Oh, okay.
Oh,
so,
it would be water. It wouldn't actually be baby
but
oil.
still, like, you're pouring stuff out. So
Yes.
you could easily be in a situation where, oh, that's not gonna work, or that's not. Again, depending on the setting, because I have things like that where I would not do that in a whatever setting. I have tricks that takes up like an hour to reset, so I wouldn't put that in my show that has to be played every hour, and something that if clothes have to dry. So for the setting, all of that,
Well, this is exactly what I wanted, though. Whether you like the idea, whether you don't like the idea, this was not the point of me asking. The point was to try to, for anyone who's watching this, try to give them the idea of things they should think about.
Yeah.
And, maybe one of those things is you need to have that 70% of the trick. And that may start from you finding a cool toy or a cool prop that you think is interesting. And it might not happen for a day or a month or a year where you find that 70% of the trick, but it might come eventually.
Yeah. And I have always just put things in my notebooks, and I'm very happy with them being there, that I don't have to do something with them right now. They will over time mature. I'll have them in the back of my mind, and then some things I'll never perform, something I will perform, and that is fine. Like, so the show you mentioned that people should go and watch on YouTube, it's called Mortens Aften, which means Morten's Evening in Danish. Is my full show. It's 2 years ago we recorded it, and it's a show that's more like a best of Morten's material, because it's stuff I've done in comedy club at that point for 8 years, and we just decided, let's make a recording of this to put it out and say, this is what I have. So you can see a lot of different styles of tricks, and some of those I still perform. The thing with the bubbles you mentioned is still one of my favorite things, and and a few people have tried to steal it from me, and I'm like, oh, please don't, because it's mine. So that show, you can see a lot of different styles of my things, and yes, it's in Danish, but there's English subtitles, and it's a bunch of stuff. I'm not saying that it's a perfect show. I like watching my own stuff, and not in an ego way, like, oh, I'm so cool, but like, the stuff I make is stuff I would find interesting myself, so I enjoy seeing it. Not like, I still will cringe, like, oh, did I do that or did I do that? Where this show, I don't want to watch it right now, but I know there's some interesting stuff in there, and I know some of it is, you could easily look at it and be like, oh, this is not good, or this is bad, or this is old, or whatever. And I am totally good with having a show up online that you can go and look at that is not perfect. Some of the tricks I still do, some of them I think is perfect for that setting, and because that's just what I made. Like, even in the jumbo card trick I put out, or in my lecture notes, or in stuff I share with magicians, I will show them what I do with it, but will be very honest with, this works for me because of some reasons. and it might not work for you, or sometimes it doesn't even work for me. Like in the jumbo card trick, I throw cards at people, and I've read reviews where
Yes.
people are like, "Oh, what if you hit somebody hard in the face?" Yeah, but then I'm not throwing the cards as a block. I'm fanning them and loosely spreading them over. Like, so yeah, if you don't understand completely my thought behind it, you could misinterpret it as me being bad, or like, oh, he's dumb, or I wouldn't do that because of this and this and this. But I really do try and think about what it is I'm showing, and I hope magicians would start doing that a little bit more often.
Well, I think that is a great, without taking up too much of your time, because I feel like these chats with you, with John Steiner, with Troy, I feel like we could create a whole convention over all of these chats, because there's so much stuff that we, as I said, we don't talk about often enough.
But then
with magicians.
people should listen to this. Listening to me, who am I? I'm just a tall guy from Denmark. Who is that guy? And
Well,
that's
look,
why,
we
again,
are all
don't
just
listen
people.
to me. Don't listen to me. Like, you could live your whole life and not listen to me, because I don't have an education. I have nothing. Maybe you have friends and a family. Don't listen to me. I don't know how I got here. Like, so yeah, I don't know if people would want to listen to this. Yeah.
I also never went to university. I am also uneducated. I also don't know what I am doing in life.
Oh,
so
you shouldn't have said that. Now it sounds like we're just two dumb idiots talking. I don't know anything. No, me neither. Okay.
Hey, look, Einstein failed school as well. So
are we sure? Isn't that just a story? I don't know.
I don't know either.
No, see, because we didn't go to school. We didn't know. But, no, I find it interesting to think about. But again, if you're not a magician that would want to put this much thought and effort into your tricks, if you just want to put them on social media, if you just want to show them to your friends, of course you shouldn't listen to me, because I'm trying to make artsy bullshit that I can be proud of. If you can live with yourself doing tricks you bought, and that's good for you, then go ahead. I'm even jealous, because I literally cannot buy a trick and just do it. I feel like physically uncomfortable showing something that is not mine. But if you can do it, go ahead. You will save time. And if all you want to do is perform and have a show, buy a show. Go to PaganiMagic.com, PEGANI.com, which is the best magic shop in Denmark. It's the biggest one in Scandinavia, and the customer support is great. I just quit my job there, but I still love the shop.
And there'll be a link in the video description if you want to visit that store.
So yeah, you can buy a show and do that, and don't listen to me. And for the few of my friends that's probably listening to this, thank you for listening. and yeah, I hope you liked what I said. And if you didn't, I don't care, and you shouldn't either. Yeah,
I love this. The way I said earlier that your show, that Mortenn's Evening, is a great. It just highlights exactly what kind of person you are and what kind of performer you are. And I think I can't even add anything to this outro. This is that you have done everything perfectly. So I will just, my final thing is that I will say, Mortenn Christiansen, thank you so much for your precious time today, and for sharing your thoughts on what magic is.
Of course, I'm happy you invited me to speak all this shit. But yeah, thank you.